You know that feeling, right? When you're so deep into something that hours just vanish. It feels like minutes. That's the state of flow, and it's one of the best feelings we can have as humans. But have you ever really stopped and asked yourself, why? Why does it feel so good? Well, today we're going to dig into the really surprising evolutionary story behind that incredible feeling. I mean, really think about it. That zone you get into when you're playing a video game or an instrument, or maybe you're coding or painting, it feels amazing. But if we're looking at this from a purely survival of the fittest angle, what's the point? It doesn't help you find food or escape a predator, so what gives? That's the big question we are tackling today.
So the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi gave this state its famous name, flow. And it really is a peak human experience. But it's also a huge evolutionary puzzle. Because while it feels fantastic, it seems totally useless for, surviving in the wild. Why would we evolve to get this incredible pleasure from something that has no obvious survival payoff?
Yeah, when you're in a flow state, the activity itself is the prize. You're not doing it for a paycheck or for someone to pat you on the back. It's the state where your sense of self kind of dissolves. Time just melts away. And that little nagging voice in your head, your inner critic, it finally goes quiet. Now be honest, do any of these things sound like they'd help our ancestors find their next meal? Not really. Okay, so to solve the mystery of flow, we actually have to start somewhere else. We need to look at a related but very, very different state of mind: immersion. You can think of this as our evolutionary baseline, the kind of intense focus that makes perfect, logical sense for survival. Immersion is all business. It's practical, it's goal-oriented. Unlike that free-floating feeling of flow, this is hardcore concentration on solving a specific problem, right here and right now. It is focused with a very clear, very immediate purpose. And yeah, immersion is, without a doubt, an evolutionary adaptation. I mean, tracking prey, chipping away at a stone to make a tool, or navigating a tricky social situation. All of these things were absolutely critical for survival, and every single one demanded that kind of deep, problem-solving focus. So, what's happening in the brain? Well, immersion is a state of hyperfrontality. That's a big word, but it just means your prefrontal cortex, which is kind of like the logical, planning CEO of your brain, is in total command. Everything is firing. It's a state of high alert and top-down control. Now, remember that word, hyperfrontality, because it is the absolute key to understanding the difference between immersion and flow. All right, so this brings us to a huge turning point in our story. We've got immersion, a clear adaptation for survival. It makes sense. But what if flow isn't an adaptation at all? What if its origin is something different? What if it's more like a beautiful accident? And when you look at the science, that's what it points to. There's just no flow gene. Unlike immersion, flow doesn't seem to have evolved to solve any one specific survival problem. It's just too general. It pops up in too many different activities to be some kind of specialized tool that evolution created for one job. To really get what's going on here, we need a new concept, the idea of an exaptation. So an adaptation is pretty straightforward. It's a trait that evolves for a specific purpose. Think of feathers evolving to keep a dinosaur warm. But an exaptation, that's when that same trait gets hijacked for a totally new purpose, like those same feathers eventually being used for flight. This idea is the absolute key to unlocking the mystery of flow. So if flow isn't a direct adaptation, then what is it? Well, here are the three most compelling explanations for why we experience this incredible state of mind. The first theory is, I think, the most elegant. It suggests that flow isn't something we evolved for at all. Instead, flow is simply what a highly efficient, masterful brain feels like from the inside. Just think about it this way. Our brains are designed to automate complicated skills. Why? To save energy. Once you've truly mastered something, like riding a bike or playing a song, you don't need your conscious brain, that prefrontal cortex CEO, getting in the way anymore. Your skills just run on autopilot. That feeling of effortless, high-performance mastery, that's a state of hypofrontality, the exact opposite of immersion, where the brain CEO finally gets to quiet down. And that quiet, efficient feeling is what we experience as flow. Okay, theory number 2. This one frames flow as a kind of clever evolutionary trick, an internal reward system that was designed to solve one of the biggest problems of learning anything difficult. Evolution had a huge problem on its hands.
How do you get an animal to stick with something for thousands of hours of boring practice when the real reward is months or even years away? Especially when there's, a tasty piece of fruit right there for the taking. The solution is just brilliant. Make the process of practicing feel good. Flow is that built-in reward that makes us push through the hard parts and keeps us on the long, slow path to mastery.
And finally, our third theory zooms way out. It suggests that flow might be one of the main engines of human culture itself, a trait that wasn't just shaped by our genes, but was put on overdrive by cultural selection. Think about it. High-level skills are the bedrock of any culture. Your master artisans, your scholars, your best warriors. These roles require an insane amount of dedication. Flow is the secret sauce that makes those thousands of hours of practice bearable, even enjoyable. By achieving that mastery, these individuals gain status and prestige, which helps them survive, thrive, and most importantly, pass on their incredibly complex skills to the next generation. In that way, flow literally helps build and sustain human culture. So let's bring this all home. Let's put immersion and flow side by side, because when you do that, the distinction becomes crystal clear. This table really just sums it all up, doesn't it? Immersion is a direct adaptation. It's for survival. It's driven by an external goal. And its brain state, that's hyperfrontality. High control, CEO is in the office. Flow is its total opposite. It's a byproduct, an acceptation. The process is the reward. And its brain state, that's the hypofrontality we talked about, a state of low conscious control where the CEO has left the building. So, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. Immersion is concentration to survive. It's the focus you need when you're hunting the mammoth. But flow is the pleasure of mastery. It's the feeling you get from perfecting the art of making the spear in the first place. One is about necessity. The other is about potential. And that, of course, leaves us with a final question for you. If we now know that flow is the subjective feeling of a brain running beautifully and efficiently on a skill you've mastered, well, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What new skill could you pursue? What could you dedicate yourself to just to find that incredible feeling for yourself?